Now, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what a CD is, why am I considering actually investing into a CD right now in this current market with the rates, and exactly why. You probably didn't even know this, but there are several other ways to actually buy a CD. You don't have to go directly with a bank. You could actually go with a broker. More on that later. And you can actually even get more money for your money if you go with a broker. I'll teach you everything by the end of this video. But I'll never actually forget that one day I was actually talking to someone and trying to help him with his investments, and he told me, Tommy, I already invest my money. And his response was basically, my investments are into CDs. And I was like, that's not an investment. And I kind of broke his whole worldview about CDs and how they actually worked. And I never really thought about investing into a CD myself until right now. And that's why this video is so important, because it might change your mind if you always thought that CDs were just a waste of money, a waste of time. But by the end of this video, you might change your mind about it. If you guys don't know me, my name is TommyBryson. And if you do know me, welcome back to the channel. On top, I also like this video. Now, what exactly is a CD? It is a certificate of deposit. And the whole concept behind it is, unlike a high yield savings account where you actually put your money in there, you make some interest, you can take your money out anytime, a CD is different because once you actually enter into agreement with the bank for a certain amount of time, you cannot take the money out without actually being penalized. That is the idea. Now, why would the bank pay you more money to keep your money for longer? It's kind of obvious, right? If you actually enter into an agreement with the bank and tell them, hey, I'm going to give you this amount of money for 12 months, and I'm agreeing not to take the money out or take the money from you. And guess what? The bank now knows I'm going to have this amount of money from Tommy for 12 months. I can actually use this money to lend it out, make loans, make more money, and I don't have to worry about him taking it out. However, then you have the question of, Tommy, but can I take it out or not? Okay, is it stuck like that? The answer is no. You can actually take the money out if you want to, but that would actually be breaking the agreement or breaking the CD. Thus, there will be a penalty. Now, every single company might have different penalties, but overall, for example, with Discover, if you're breaking a CD that's less than 12 months, you get penalized by 3 months. They take 3 months of the interest. If it's between, I think, 1 to 4 years, it's around 6 months they take. If it's 4 to 5 years, it's around 9 months that you take worth of interest, okay? But the answer is you will be forfeiting a part of the profits you actually would have made. Now, why are they willing to pay you more money? It's obvious, right? They're willing to pay you more money because you're giving up the freedom of having access to your money whenever you actually want to. So right now, for example, you might be able to make from a high yield savings around 4.5%, but from a CD, you could actually make between like 5 to 5.2 to 5.4%. And some of the options here are even as high as like 5.8% potentially, okay? So there are a lot of options, okay? Now, there is another question that I actually want to answer. And the question is, Tommy, if I put my money in a CD, would you consider that an investment? The answer is absolutely not really, man. Like, not at all. And here's why, okay? Because whenever you're making an investment, it's not just about the money you're getting back, which is very important, by the way, but it's also the risk of the money you're giving out. It's also the taxes, the fees, the inflation, and then lastly, comparing that investment across other investments and seeing what you could potentially make, or that's called opportunity cost, okay? That's the idea. So, is your investment safe with the bank? The answer is, well, if it's up to 250K and the bank is FDIC insured, it's pretty safe, because if the bank goes belly up or bankrupt or it loses all the money, guess what? The government is saying we're going to cover it. So that is awesome because you have a government guarantee, but it's only up to 250K. I say only up to, but it is a lot of money, okay? Now, second, is this a good investment? The answer is right now, let's say you actually went to Discover and said, I want to get a CD. And the CD is making you, for example, like 5.2%. And that's for 1 year. Now, relative, like what are you actually making? Well, after fees, there aren't really any fees, great. But what about after taxes? Well, the answer is taxes. The interest you actually make from that is going to be considered ordinary income. So if you're taxed at 24%, you'll be taxed at 24%. What about, for example, inflation? Inflation right now is around 3.5%. Okay, so 5% minus 3.5%, you actually make with you actually left with like a 1.5% of real money that you're actually making. Now, that's not all, but then you also have to compare that to other investments. For example, let's say you put your money in the stock market into the S&P 500. How much money would you actually make? The answer is roughly, on average, around like 8 to 10%. That's a lot better than just 5%. But there is one caveat, okay? With the stock market, you have more volatility, you also have more risk, and you also have no guarantees. You could also just lose all your money potentially, unless you're actually investing into index funds, which you could lose all your money, but it's highly unlikely because depending on what you invest into, to lose all your money, the world literally has to burn into ashes, okay? So it's a good guarantee if you ask me. But overall, would I consider making like 1.5% in real money in investment? The answer is no. So tell me, why are you considering actually investing into a CD if it's actually a poor investment? Because guess what? Not everything is about money and numbers. Sometimes it's about money and numbers, okay? I'm just kidding, okay? But for the most part, the reason I'm actually considering investing into a CD. So I think investing right here is the wrong word. The word I would use is basically the reason I'm considering putting my money into a CD, because it wouldn't be considered an investment. Back to the video. It's because I have a chunk of money that I actually got from the sale of some real estate that I actually sold earlier this year, and I'm not gonna use this money for investing into the stock market. So it's not really money for investing, it's more like money for buying my next home. So it's money I need to have there available for me. Now, why don't I just leave it in a normal savings account? The answer is because guess what? If interest rates change, then I won't be making that much money, right? If interest rates basically go down on my side, I'm not making as much money. But if I lock into a good solid interest rate I feel happy with, well, if they drop, I'm still locked into that interest rate, which is actually great. But Tommy, what if interest rates actually go up, right? You're gonna be trapped. The answer is that's true, but the odds are actually probably on my side. But even then, it's all about, are you happy with the interest rate you actually get in? And I do think making 5.2% is not that bad. It's actually pretty good overall. So the reason I'm considering a CD is not because I'm trying to invest into a CD, but it's because I have money that I'm going to have there to buy a personal property, and I need to have it making me some money, at least in interest. It's not eaten up by inflation, and I do think a CD at 5% or above 5% is pretty good. Now, why not basically buy a bond, Tommy? Or, for example, put it into the stock market, Tommy? Well, first of all, the stock market is very easy to disqualify because guess what? If I deposit like $10,000 in the stock market today and tomorrow it drops, there's basically risk, there's volatility, and when I need the money for buying the property, I could be, for example, in a downturn in the market and I would have to wait or basically sell at a massive discount or a loss, and I don't want to do that, so it doesn't make any sense. However, bonds might actually make sense, okay? Because guess what? I could buy, for example, a T-bond or a T-bill in this case. That's what they call it. It's a T-bill, not T-bond. Sorry about that, but it's a T-bill. And it's basically an agreement with the government for like less than a year where they're actually going to basically pay you interest. And right now they're paying above 5%, which is great. Now, is this safe? The answer is, if the government can't pay you, then how is the bank supposed to pay you? Okay, because the government gives basically the banks the money. The treasury does, okay? So it's pretty safe because guess what? They can always just print more money and pay you. That's the idea. Money's not real. Now, number two is basically T-bonds, okay? So those are bonds that are more than a year, and I could consider getting one for 2 years and locking it in at 5%. That actually might be a good idea, and I might consider that. But the big drawback when it comes to like treasury bonds is basically they pay out money like every 6 months or so. So it basically means that, hey, I put my money inside, I buy this bond, and now every 6 months I'm getting paid. Whereas, for example, with getting a CD, most likely I'll get paid monthly, which is actually great. But overall, which one is safer? If you have more than 250K, then obviously going with the treasury is safer. Now tell me, how do I actually buy bonds? You buy it through Treasury Direct. I'll make a video on that. If you comment down below Treasury Direct, I'll make a video on bonds. Just comment down below bonds, okay? I'll make a video on it. I made an account just recently, and I'm interested in actually considering it. Okay, so that's why I'm saying I'm considering buying a CD, but I'm still also considering buying a bond. And you might see in another video what I actually end up buying. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because that's the only way you're gonna find out when I post that video. But overall, Tommy, how can I actually buy CDs? Okay, the answer is not that complicated. You can go to a bank, ask what CDs they actually have available, and then based on their rates they're actually willing to give you out, you compare, you contrast. Okay, Discover is giving you 5.2% for like a year or two. Okay, maybe like a year. And maybe, for example, another company might be giving you, for example, like a little bit more money or less money. It's all up to you. But again, banks are fairly safe if they're FDIC insured, if it's up to 250K. But if you have more than that, I would basically go with a treasury bill, okay, for the most part, because it is a lot safer, because the government can also print more money and your money is basically secured. It's what you call a risk-free investment. When you invest with the government, like into treasury bills, it's a risk-free investment. It's a risk-free equivalent, because they can print more money at hand. So you have no risk of not getting your money back. So it's something I'm considering, okay? So here are my options, just so you know, and maybe it could actually help you make your mind up. So the money I have on the side is for buying a property. Now, if I'm not planning to buy a property like for like the first year or 2 years, it might be a good idea to basically lock that money away for like 2 years and just have that money there. But then there is the whole thing of like, are you really willing to lock your money away for 2 years just to lock in profits of 5%? You know, the answer is probably not for me, okay? So I'm most likely willing to lock it up for like a year and just basically do that, okay? But I could also do a ladder where I actually do, for example, T-bills for a certain amount, and then I basically buy other CDs for a later amount, and I can basically just create a ladder, you know, where I have bills that are basically, or CDs that expire in 1 year, ones that expire in 2 years, ones that expire in 3 years, and this way I'm not worried about not having enough money to buy the property I want to buy. So that is also an option. There are something called like CD ladders, so that is an option, and also bond ladders in a sense if you think about it like that, okay? But overall, that's another video for another day. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. If you are a part of the people that are on Patreon supporting the channel, I appreciate you guys a ton. So the link is down below for Patreon if you want to join us. Support the channel. You also get exclusive content and discounts and so on. And here is the highlighted person for the week on Patreon. Appreciate it a ton. On top of that, up here is another video. Over here is my face. And as always, long-term team officially out.